am going to give a short bio of the former Mayor Amos Rogers. The former Amos Rogers was born in Zebulon, North Carolina. Oh, by the way, my name is Joella Rogers Benson, the oldest child of 9 siblings. At an early age of 19 or 20, my dad left the farm in North Carolina and went to live with a cousin in Darby, Pennsylvania, who was a barber. This was my dad's dream of someday owning a barber shop. Dad just loved cutting hair. After learning all he could from his cousin, he sought other work. Dad moved to Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, where he worked as an apprenticeship cutting hair and doing part-time jobs. He met Roxy Farmer and fell in love with her. They married in 1930. Roxy, my mother's hometown, was in Lawnside, New Jersey. She told Dad that this was a black town and was governed by blacks. This was very interesting to my dad. So they moved to Lawnside, New Jersey in 1937. After moving to Lawnside, Dad became involved in activities that improved this black town. He soon became interested in politics. He registered as a Republican. He served on many committees as a councilman. He also served on many committees of the Camden County Republican Club. In 1955 through 1960, Amos Rogers Sr. became Mayor Amos Rogers Sr. Some of his accomplishments will be discussed by other family members. I must thank the Historical Society for thinking of honoring older mayors who paved the improvement of this great town of Lawnside. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. My name is Cheryl Brooks of Kizawanda, and I wanted to add a little bit to what my sister Joella has said. Joella is the oldest, and I'm the youngest. And we have some information that we like to share. Some of our other siblings have sent in information for us to express how our dad has been such an inspiration to us. So when we think about our father, Amos Rogers, he lived in a farm, and he lived with his father, the Reverend William Henry Rogers, and his mother, Josephine Ivy Rogers. They lived in a cabin, a log cabin, and they had a farm, and this farm was 105 acres, and they grew all types of vegetables. They had farm animals, they had cotton, tobacco crops, and fruit trees. And all of these products that they had, they used them for themselves and also for their livelihood. So this was, to me, a very interesting thing because it showed that Daddy was very and his family was self-sufficient in terms of really being able to have their own food and do all of what they needed to do. So my sister was saying that, Daddy left from North Carolina, and before he left, he attended a White Oak Grammar School. That was his basic training, his elementary school training. But then later on, when he was a teenager, he went to the high school of this Barry O'Kelly boarding school. This boarding school was built by a black man who actually had a state certified school for black co-eds in the time that schools were segregated. Because integration came along, the school actually went out of existence. Dad said one time to me that, integration was good, but it also drives some of the black owned businesses out of business. So, continuing on with what we would like to talk about is that my sister was saying that Dad left from North Carolina and he went to Bryn Mawr. Before he went to Bryn Mawr, he actually moved from was going to the north to Rhode Island, but stopped in Darby. And in Darby, he visited his cousin. And Joe, I don't know whether you mentioned this or not, but one of his cousins, uh, Morgan, was a barber, correct?
Yes.
So he learned some things there, and he was actually barbering there. But shortly after, he moved to Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. And in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, he was able to own his own barber shop. He also did some other work in 25th and Nichols Avenue and 46th and Passyunk Avenue in Philadelphia. So Daddy was able to actually live his dream as being a barber, but I believe it was in Bryn Mawr Hospital, right, Joe, that he met and married my mother, Roxy Olivia Farman. So glad he did that because we're here. Yeah, so, in 1937, the family moved to Lawnside. I wasn't born yet, but the rest of them were, And he became really active, like Joe said. And from the Lawnside Chronicle, which was a newspaper that Lawncidians actually put out monthly, very good, of which my sister Joe actually was one of the people that helped with that. Daddy had a list of a lot of different accomplishments. First of all, he was twice elected mayor. He was a school board member and president for 9 years. He was a member and president of council, and during his time as a council member, Daddy was the chairman of a property ordinance committee. In that committee, he recommended that the borough grant 2.5 acres of ground to Lawnside School. As president of the school board, he recommended a $100 yearly increment for teachers until they actually reached maximum salary, and that the teachers, be paid bi-monthly. Daddy also, worked on a project, the sewer project that he worked with when he was a council member with the former mayor, Mayor Chappelle, and this was during the 50s. So Daddy involved himself with a lot of activities, and I have to ask my sister, Joella, can you shed any light on as to why Daddy was a Republican?
Well, at one time, Lawnside was all Republican. All the Bryants were Republicans. But from what I gathered from him, in the South, the Democrats ruled. And they had to memorize parts of the Constitution, take a test to vote. And this made him, when he came north, to have a choice. And his choice was to be a Republican. I know he often talked about his sister, which is my Aunt Blanche, who taught civics in school, high school, but yet she was not able to vote until she took the test. And when she passed the test, he was delighted that she did pass. So I think that's one of the reasons why he became a Republican. But I always told him, I might follow in your footsteps as being a Republican, but I vote for the man that I think is going to do me some good. And that's the way that I left it, and that's the way he left.
Thank you, Joe. That sounds just like him. So, in the Republican Party, uh, Daddy had some positions. Can you tell us anything about this executive Camden County Republican Association?
I don't know whether he was the only Republican on the Camden County Nominating Committee, but he served on that many years, and I can remember where they was giving honoring him for something, and I said, where in the world are all these white folks coming? But they were all Republicans that was, you know, honoring him, and he was just loved by them all, and you really couldn't argue with him about being a Republican. So I never tried to argue with him at all, or to discuss it, but he was, until he died, he was a Republican.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Joe. So there was a lot of other different accomplishments that Daddy actually did. And one of them during the 50s with the former mayor Gilbert Chappelle, Daddy and him worked to actually create the monument that was erected for the World War II veterans. Also, he was, and Mayor Chappelle continued the housing boom that was on Roberts Avenue, and that Roberts Avenue was renamed Hilliard Moore Avenue. During that same time in the 50s, the Inman Hotel was in operation. So, it's little stories about that because a lot of people that visited wanted to stay at a hotel, and Lawnside had a hotel. Not the top type of hotel, but there was a place where you could stay. Also, during the 60s, Daddy and Hilliard Moore, they were the ones that actually worked on, and Daddy was able to install the sewer system that is here in Lawnside. And during that same time, the 295 was further divided Lawnside. And there's some questions, but I think it may be worth investigating that when there was some kind of excavation that was done, there were artifacts that were related to the Underground Railroad was found. There's so much more that Daddy did, and he also was one of the first people to be employed by the New Jersey Turnpike, the only black. And a toll collector at that time had to wear uniforms. So I hope you get to see that picture of the uniforms and how sharp they look just collecting toll. Daddy also was the director of the Lawnside Golden Age Club. So that Golden Age Club, they changed the Joe, what did they change? They changed the name of the Golden Age Club?
Nutrition program or something like that.
Okay, yeah. So, but the Golden Age Club is looking out for seniors. Daddy was the treasurer of the Lawnside Credit Union until his health actually became where he couldn't do it anymore. He was a member of the Mayor's Association of Camden County. He also was a member of the James Bell Masonic Lodge, number 97 of Ardmore, Pennsylvania. And Joe, if you don't have any other contributions right now, I think we can talk about Daddy's philosophy of Lawnside. What do you think?
Well, I think Daddy loved Lawnside because he always talked about uh, improving this, or got to do this. And my mother used to tell him, you need to give up something because regardless of what job he had, uh, uh, or committee he was serving on, he always found time to cut hair. Always. And he always had two jobs as long as I'm 90. And he's always had two jobs. So he supported his family. He wasn't home that much because he was in and out, in and out, in and out. And my older brother, who's down deceased, used to say, they got a ball game and my dad can't go, but Dad would always find somebody to, to take him. So I appreciate what he did for the family and how he provided for the family. And although my mother had 9 children, I'm the oldest, and I was never uh, uh, told that I had to stay home and watch the kids because she was doing this because my mother always stayed home. She only went out now and then, and I used to always say to her, I said, I know when I get married, I ain't gonna be in like you. But I found myself after I got married, and my youngest son, Leonard, he's had two open heart surgeries. He has a bad heart, and just since I've moved here, my oldest son, I don't know whether you know Dino, he's blind. I said, so the Lord has left me here for something. I think I still have work to do. I said, but I'm slow. I'm slow, but thank God that I got sisters that take care of me. And I have a daughter that lives in Tampa, Florida, that she wants me to come live in Tampa, but I like to be around family because we were raised with my dad's motto was, when one's in trouble, you're all in trouble. And that's the way we were raised.
And Joe, if I could just add a little bit about Daddy's philosophy. I just said, maybe it was Daddy's upbringing on a farm which sparks his sense of self-determination and being the first black in several organizations, and perhaps his hard work both in his private life and in the community reflected his pride in himself and the pride in the people to push forward and to do more, to envision a place of beauty, progress, and peace for all who call themselves Lawncidians. Continue the legacy.